I don't know if you can come on camera. I am excited because I remember the day when it was the end of December 2023. And we just had this wonderful celebration because we looked back on the year that happened and all the things that we were able to create to change. So here we are a year later, it's 2023, the end of December. And let's look back and see what happened this past year. So I have some objects here that are usually somewhere around my desk. And these are things that helped me last year. And I think some of you also had some great objects that were helpful for you. So my first one is the Visine. And it's like amazing how just when I see my bottle of Visine, it reminds me that I could be seeing more clearly. And one of my goals has always been to try to see the other person's perspective and understand it more clearly. So that's what my Visine did for me. So does anyone have an object that is close by that represents something that you want to share that has been a good trigger for you?
I can.
Yes.
Mine is more looking forward because I'm the sort of person who reads a lot, listens a lot, researches a lot, and has trouble doing the thing, taking
Right.
steps and moving forward. There's always more to figure out and be careful about. Anyway, so there's 3 reasons for showing this. One is just to brag on one of my kids who made it in school.
Oh, wow.
Like a
Is that
comparing
so
sort of
cool?
thing that they did in art. But I like it for a couple reasons. First, this is more personal. It's colorful. You can see my palette here. This is my usual. I want to bring a little more color into my life this year in a lot of ways. We've all been not traveling and doing things pandemic for years. I want to bring some of that vibrancy back. It's vibrant. But the other thing is all these people are in, or dogs are in some kind of motion, right? You see the lines?
Yes.
So it might be upside down. Who knows how this actually goes?
I know.
But it actually hangs in my bedroom so I can see it in the morning.
Oh,
Think
how
about, okay, what am I going
fun.
to do today? So that's my object.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah. And I think that's so cool that you have it right there. So when you wake up in the morning, that's one of the first things that you see. So you get grounded in that vision. How fun. And the artwork, I was a teacher, and when I go back in buildings now for IEP meetings, I love seeing the kids' artwork in the hallways and everything. And it just makes me miss being around kids and their creativity. So how wonderful that your child gave you that present.
Yeah.
How fun. And you guys can leave yourselves unmuted because to me, it's just a conversation. We don't have to be formal. So does anyone else have a object that they want to use going into the new year to be their reminder? Amy.
I just shoveled the last bit of lunch into our faces. Hey, you guys, I had to print this because I can't find anything around that's related. Oh, actually, I know where there's one now. So I printed this teddy bear because it reminded me of early childhood. And with so I got into the Partners in Policymaking program, and I'm also trying to revamp the company this year too, which we were talking about, Charmaine. But what I want to try to focus on is like the early childhood scene, because when it comes to building the relationships, I feel more comfortable going in that stage rather than the repairing stage when things are really rough. So I'd really like to try to figure out how to find the families that have young kids, specifically, I guess, with Down syndrome in this case, because that's my area of comfort. So that they can start to make those relationships with their providers and then the preschools and the school district to set the tone for inclusion, and to make sure that I'm not just doing it for my kid, but then I'm going to make sure I go meet with the PTA and the special ed group if there is one. I want to go meet with your curriculum people. I want to set the tone, help them set the tone early before things go awry and then they're posting on Facebook all the things that make me very sad.
I know those life experiences, right? Yeah. And Amy and I were talking the other day, and I was saying, when people get to the point where I need to hire an advocate, the trust and the communication has broken down so much that it's really challenging to bring people together. And Amy was talking about if we could reach parents when their kids are younger. And then I don't know, and Trish, you might have a feel for this. Trish was a school counselor. I wonder, it just seems like people don't move until there's almost pain. But is that like an old psychology? I don't know. So Trisha, or if you have an object you want to share with us, I'd love to hear.
I was a school counselor, social worker for 12 years, and then I had 2 biological children, and then I adopted 3 siblings that have special needs, and they're all different in their labels, but have similar manifestations.
Right.
And so what I want to say that when I'm beating myself up and can't sleep at night is that I looked at my special ed population as special ed. I mean, my kids that were because I taught in the classroom prevention units every day to all students. And I loved all of my students, really actually preferred the high risk kids in my school. That was where I did really good work, but I never looked at that population of kids that went out to resource or went to another room as being my kids. And now the shift happened that, oh my gosh, I could have been supporting these parents in such a different way now that I have lived experience, and that when I would attend an IEP meeting for whatever reason, that the sadness or the frustration in their eyes, that I could have been a different kind of advocate. And I think my schools were very good in the sense that it was an inclusion kind of thing. So when the counselor comes in, those kids will be here. But I think that there's so many things going on in everyone's lives, professional and personal, that change doesn't happen until it hurts, right? So it's not until someone says, hey, what about my kid? Or I want things to be different. And then you have to look at it and say, okay, are we going to focus on this individual kid, or are we going to change the environment for all kids so that they can be maybe more successful? And I've just begun to understand through Charmaine really what inclusion looks like, universal design looks like, and that each of my kids need supports and help. And even though that can look different, they thrive so much better in general education with their peers. It's crazy the way that my kids have been able to grow that now that I've demanded inclusion. But as Charmaine said, we're working on banning seclusion, reducing restraints, and banning corporal punishment, primarily for me, because my children have experienced it hundreds of times from kindergarten, and now my kids are in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. And that is not something we do at home. We don't use restraints and seclusion in our home, and it's not necessary to do that. There's other ways to support kids. But this is my favorite thing in the whole wide world is Windex.
Huh.
And that counts. I had a therapist tell me once, you need to put the Windex bottle down and just breathe. And I was like, I like to clean. I like things nice and tidy. But the object lesson with Windex for me is I see more clearly. And it's really easy to wipe away. What I have found in this Idaho issue of restraints and seclusion is that I've had to wipe away the grit and the grime of years of policy, lack of policy, false fixed beliefs that behaviorism is the only way, and that there are some dirty politics. And I'm telling you what, that was a hard lesson. It's been a hard lesson for me to learn, not hard to learn, hard for me to accept, because I didn't know. I guess that's not my world I live in. And so how do you clearly make the issue without getting mired up in the politics? So we've had some great help with that on the national level of he doesn't say this, but how do you go behind the scenes and keep on getting your voice heard without playing the game? And so That's
Right.
where I'm at.
I love your Windex. And you know what I just thought of, Tricia, is when we testify at the legislature, we could bring some objects and talk about this because that's going to grab their attention. It's like, how many people testify with a bottle of Windex in their hand? You know what I mean? And because it's like you feel like you need to shake people. And so I don't know, but I think that could be a prop that you could use.
And that's just it, is that the clarity that that when I use Windex on almost every surface to clean almost anything, but there's things that need to be cleaned off and continue to be cleaned off. And sometimes you just spray the Windex on and let it sit for a little while. There are layers within the Idaho system. I was an educator. I believe in public education. I was a firm believer in it, still am. And yet when I worked in it, I didn't see the politics until you're on the outside. And it doesn't matter if I say, oh, I was a school counselor in Idaho, or I was this, or I was a mental health professional. No, you have the parent label on you, and you're just a parent.
Right.
I'm a parent with my Windex because I'm going to clear this mess away, not just for my kids, but for all children, not just for kids with special needs, but for all kids. This should not be happening. Anyway, so I just keep on clearing away messes, and then I need to clear away my desk and start over because you get too deep into something. You're like, that's not working. Time to clean up and refresh. So that's what I'm looking forward to in 2023.
Cool, cool, cool. I love it. So Heather's joined us from Florida. Yona's joined us from Massachusetts. So who else? Do you have something to share? It's fun and interesting to see what people are sharing.
I can go next. I am driving. Sorry about people, but I'm always going. So one of my things is my car keys. On your email, you said key can change, but I thought my keys can open doors. And hopefully this next year with my keys, with the key, I am going to be part of our area education agency's parent advisory board. I got asked to be on that for the next 3 years and to take part in that. So I'm hoping all of the stuff that I learned will change for other kids. I still feel for Jameson, there are lots of things that still need to change for him, but going forward, maybe I can open some doors for other kids in other districts where there isn't that option right now.
Oh.
So that's one of my things for that.
Yes, I know. Isn't that exciting?
My second one is it's kind of exciting. I'm excited to be on this board. I hope it will, change from the administration down. I feel like a lot of the teachers don't educational agency, or there's more resources available that they don't know that they can reach out to, and hopefully that will be something that we can make changes with. But yeah, the other object I had was my water bottle, which I constantly need to refill my water bottle, my inner water bottle, with all of you guys who I keep going back to, even when I'm frustrated and think that I'm not doing anything. There's nothing that's going to change their mindsets, their anything. No, I just need to keep refilling it and coming back.
Thank you. You're freezing up a little bit, but we heard water bottle, and I was going to put a plug in Otto Land. This is one of Otto's water bottles. Everyone belongs here. So Otto Types is his website. He's got some good things there. And also we're going to do some giveaways. And I think what we'll do is I'll put a post on my Facebook page. And if you guys just want to comment there a little bit about your object or whatever, so other people can be in the giveaway too. And then I'll figure out a time to close comments, and the more comments you make on that Facebook post, the more chances you have to win. And I'll talk about some of the giveaways in a minute, but Heather or Anne or Yona, do you ladies have something that you'd like to share with us?
Sure. Hi. I came on for a second. Brody's sick today, so I just change of plans. So it's fitting. But I picked my unicorn pen
Huh.
because it's a little bit of magic and it's the power of words and like drawing on other people's strength. And
Huh.
to remind myself that just having to replan and recalculate doesn't mean that what you had written originally was bad per se, but you can strike it and then learn from it going forward.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. It is so cool. And Heather is a wonderful artist. And Kelly, can you show the picture that your child did?
Oh.
I don't think you saw this. She was on.
Sure. Their art teacher, this is my younger son who's in elementary school.
That's
I think
awesome.
he did this last year, 4th grade. Their art teacher is fantastic. And so I'm sure they were studying Keith Haring and then the kids did some things, but and he's also, I have no artistic talent, but he's my little artist. So I just love this. And I hang it up for the color and the inspiration to move by my bed.
Yeah.
When I wake up in the morning, it's facing us anyway.
That's awesome. You did really well on that.
Yeah, I know. Huh. I know. I love how you associated a few different things with that unicorn pen, Heather. So it's the writing, the drawing, it's like the magical. So how fun. And what I think I want to try and do is just use my object as a trigger for, yeah, remember, Charmaine, what can we do to see more clearly? And so when they're common objects that you see in your house, I bet tomorrow and the next day you'll see that object and it will click like, oh yeah, this represents something to me that I want to remember. And yeah, so who else would like to share? And if you don't have an actual object to share, that's fine. If you just want to share how things are going and what you're looking forward to in the new year. Quietness, quietness. The other thing I was thinking of too is, hey, oh, good. What do you have? Okay, unmute yourself. Because you're still muted.
She had written in the chat.
Oh,
about
that's
that.
right. That yeah, she told me that she wasn't going to have any sound. Okay, so it's a timer. Okay, so who wants to give an interpretation of that sign timer? What are our guesses that she was using that for?
So I can read the chat because she wrote a good.
Oh, shoot.
good
Yeah, I
amount.
haven't
Yeah.
been paying attention.
I picked the hourglass as the eternal passage of time because although I advocated for my son for 14 years, I didn't see much progress in the district and time is running out. That's why as parents, we have to keep advocating, staying focused on the end goal no matter what. And also some of us use the hourglass as a way to represent the fall and rise in life. It doesn't mean when you're at the top, you cannot go back down and vice versa. We have to keep on advocating as diligently as we can. And then she thanks you, Charmaine, for all that you do, as do I.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'm not a good multitasker when I'm on Zoom because it's, oh yeah, comments. People are supposed to pay attention. I'm supposed to pay attention. So yeah, I'm so glad you got to share. Oh, and Anne says, mine is the calendar. I need to have patience and change takes time. She said, I got a 2023, 2024, and I don't know if that's calendar maybe. Yeah, so it's good to see the comments back and forth to people. Trisha saying magic and power of words. Yeah. Oh, cool. The other thing I thought before I forget, and if you can hold up your object and I'll do like a screen share so we get like a photo of all our objects. So let's see if I don't know if I'll be able to hold mine up while I take the screen share. Oh, wow. Okay, 1, 2, 3. What? Oop. Shoot, I don't know.
Oh, you were saying hi.
I'm gonna have to use my phone because I don't know what I'm doing on Zoom. Okay, 1, 2, 3.
How do I know what they're saying?
Okay, thank you. So I don't know, is this fun for you? It's like, I love things that get my mind bubbling.
You too. And Birdie wants to say hi to everybody.
Hey, Birdie. Hey, Birdie, I hope you're doing well. Your mom said you weren't feeling quite your perky self.
I wish.
I know there's too much crud going around that's hanging on.
And the funniest part about being sick is that I do not like puking.
I bet
With you.
everybody here would agree with you. And especially moms who have to clean it up, right?
Yeah.
She's been cleaning it up.
Let's hope the puking stops and you
Well,
just,
don't I wish?
I know. See, now you have lots of people wishing that for you, so it'll come true faster. And maybe you could write your wish with your mom's magical unicorn pen. And that has power.
All right.
No.
So many possibilities, right? So another tool that I want to use more in 2023 is my easy button. Does anybody have an easy button?
That was easy.
So this is one of the giveaways because everybody needs an easy button.
That was easy.
Like that would be fun to take to IEP meetings. And every time you get agreement, you could say,
That was easy.
and you could like count how many easy things can we do at this meeting today. And it's not to dismiss the stress and the everything that you have to deal with as a parent. And it's just to say, yeah, we need to pause and give ourselves time to grieve and be upset. And then there's also that time where we want to get back on track and say, okay, we can do this. And that's the purpose of our new group that we have coming up. I'm so like bubbly percolating about it, January 12th. And the difference is we're going to have teachers, parents, family members, other people in a group together. Some of you may know I've had a different group for parents only. And there are some groups on Facebook for teachers only, but I really want to break down that barrier of us versus them. And I know it as a teacher, I know it as a parent, I know it as an advocate. When I was talking to Amy the other day, it was like, when I first started my advocacy business, I called myself a parent liaison because I wanted to be that bridge between, I know the school system and I know what it's like to be a parent advocating for your child, and I could help bridge. But the first IEP meeting I went to, and even though I introduced myself as a parent liaison, it was obvious that the staff really saw me as an advocate and in their eyes as an adversary. So it's like I've done a lot of individual advocacy and I'll continue to do that because there's a need for that. But we have such a need for collective advocacy. And I just thought I need to walk the talk. And so our new group opening in January is called Connecting for Change. I know most of my audience are parents, so we'll have a lot of parents in there. I know a lot of my audience, as I am passionate about inclusive ed. And yet I see this group as you pick your passion project that you want to work on. And I don't know if you saw that quick video I did yesterday, but it was like, I see this as almost like adult project-based learning, where it's not going to be like, we're going to have a training on this and everybody's going to learn about this one thing. It's going to be more of how do we create change? And what kind of frameworks, what kind of structure can we have? What can we learn from each other? Like Trisha and I have stories about how we've tried to get things off the ground in Idaho, and there's basically 3 of us. And one of the big parts of our new group is going to be growing communities. How do we expand and have more allies? Because when there's only 3 of you, you get tired. So we'll be looking at some like grassroots kinds of good old fashioned community organizing that throughout our history, through especially like the civil rights movement, we've seen that grassroots community building be really effective. So how do we learn from what other people have been doing and apply it to education? So yes, a lot of people are going to be pursuing inclusive ed. Other people are looking at universal design for learning. How can we get that implemented? I have a friend that's really active with restorative justice. Like for her, that's like her passion, that she wants to bring a restorative justice to schools. So I don't know, do you have a certain thing? It's, this is what I want to change in our district. What would that be for you?
I sighed because I'm not quite sure. I've been in one district for 9 years. It's the K through 8 district. And now my 8th grader is with Down syndrome is about to go to high school, and it's an entirely different district. And I've seen nice changes in the district I'm in, not through my own doing. I've been pushing, but then leadership change, right? And sometimes that all of a sudden, when I went in to talk about all my ideas, instead of getting polite nods, I got, oh, let's look into that. Let's do that. So these changes are finally happening as we're exiting. I'm still like hopeful about it. But these same kids then who do get a more inclusive experience than they've had in the past will now go to our high school, which from what I can tell from my 2 or 3 friends who are 1 or 2 clicks ahead of me, is not where the other district was. It's back again. And you only have 4 years there. And there are a couple people who would, but I don't know who the allies are in that whole big thing. And it just feels very daunting. So of the things you mentioned, I think I think what they don't know how to do well is include kids who are in between like mine, definitely not at grade level, definitely not doing UDL, having the gen ed teachers understand how to have someone like my kid in their classroom. I think that's the struggle. And I fear I'm not going to be able to have even the level I've achieved here. I'll have to pick my battles. I just don't see how I can recreate what we were able to get in middle school. So I'm trying to decide where to focus, but UDL jumps out just because those teachers need those tools and support. And how do I get that to them? I don't know.
So how many 8th graders are going to be moving to the same high school that your son will go to? Like, will those parents be potential allies or?
Maybe. So it's a big system. We have, I think, a dozen or more elementary schools, 3 middle schools plus 2 magnets. So 5 middle schools. And then we all feed into the high school. So I don't actually know the parents of the other middle schools. I know some people in town, but I also, like you were saying with your work in Idaho, I don't feel like there are a lot of people pushing for what I'm pushing right now. I have heard tell of people who came before, and I'm sure there'll be people, but it feels like this pockmarked effort, and you cobble something together for your kid, which is why I'm so interested in what you're talking about here. There must be people, right? Everybody's overwhelmed and busy, and I can't reach everybody, but it's hard to know how to get that critical mass. I'll be looking out for those folks.
Yes. And that's why I was wondering, just in his 8th grade class, are those parents?
Yeah, he's not in the self-contained classrooms. And so I don't actually know those folks and the way schools are. And God, a year and a half of COVID, I wasn't even in the school. I didn't make the connections with the parents in middle school that I had been able to make in elementary school. And neither did he make the connection with kids. So I'm a little disconnected because of where we are in time. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's an excellent point as far as the impact of being away from schools and then trying to jump back into things. Amy does a lot of like school change work. Amy, like I know you have your professional work. You have a certain thing that either professionally or personally that you really want to focus on? Or do you have any tips for Kelly?
Yeah, I was writing to Kelly as you. I just
Oh, yeah.
the last word. Just one of the things I was gonna say to her, and I guess I'll explain it in the longer version. There's a secondary district that I know, or a high school only district, that where a bunch of other districts feed into them, and they were in hot water for LRE, and they're working on it now, like really nicely. A lot of shifts, even though the percentage is not where it should be. It's gone up quite a bit in 2 years for indicator 5A, and one of the things that was happening was they were getting families that were panicking, and the middle school teams panicking, because they didn't have co-teaching until recently in secondary with every subject. So the default, out of fear, was not to say gen ed with supports, it was to say special class,
That's-
because everybody's afraid, right?
Yep.
And how could you possibly support my kid? So what we started talking about was how important a supportive IEP is in high school, and that is articulated across the departments so that everyone's on the same page. But also that they started meeting with the middle school families from each middle school to talk about what they do have and that their kids will be supported, to put them at ease, because that was, parents were not asking for it. We're not asking for inclusion out of fear, even though their
Right.
kids have been in co-teaching K-8. They just
Yeah,
kind of
so I don't know the families, but I have a case manager and he has other families. And now as you're talking, I'm thinking maybe I can ask the case managers we've had in middle school who've been very good, explain our fear. He knows our fear because he's great and we've been talking about it. And do you know of other families who might want to approach the high school together? Because I'm sure I've been articulating to my team these fears and they're not dissuading me from these fears. They get it too. So yeah, that's a good suggestion. I may write to those guys and just say, here's what I'm thinking. Is there anyone else, you know me, is there anyone else who you know might be in the situation, could facilitate conversations between us? And then, yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And then the other thing is some middle schools wait till April or maybe May to do any kind of transition meetings with the high school staff or for the kids to take the typical tour of the high school. But you can push that back and start having conversations earlier. And so maybe the case managers that you've had, it's like, what do you see? What do you think would be the best strategy working with the high school staff? Because they probably know them, at least some, and try to see from the teacher's point of view, how can we approach the high school teachers and come from, we want to work together on this.
Yeah, and he suggested I reach out, but like the high school is this, there's a million teachers and I don't know which ones my kids are going to have. I don't know where to start. However, I am part of our local CPAC, the K-8. It's essentially a CPAC. We changed the name to, Caregiver Council for Disability Inclusion, to get away from the special ed stuff. But
right.
And I know the folks running our district and they interact with their counterparts. So there have to be ways. I just also don't want to I need to have a coherent approach to them. Their time is, they've got a lot going on. They're doing a lot. So what do I ask for and how do I do it? I guess I was hoping to get some ideas in working in this new group as well. We are starting early. I have my articulation meeting, which is what they call it, I think in the IEP in January, articulation meeting in February. We just had our 3-year in December. So those are, so I'll have some time in the spring when we've had these meetings to start to build those bridges, I hope.
Really, we had I took my school to file the state, no, it wasn't a state complaint. What is it called? Mediation.
Due process.
Due process. And
Mhm.
so part of the plan, because my son was going from elementary to middle school, that another parent had suggested was that the teachers and anyone that encountered my son at school would would work together to create video snippets that they put together to introduce my child, his strengths, his weaknesses, and how best they have found to support him. And so then that video is available for anyone, for the case manager to share with anyone that my child is going to be taught with, but that it can also be shown to the kitchen. It can be shown to office staff. This is an introduction to my child. These are some things that he struggles with. This is the best way to support him. This is his interests and likes. And so then when we had our first, so they already, and then I added a little piece to it, like this is a little of a backstory on him. And so they already felt like they knew him before he started. So they had lots of questions like, really want to know how to watch the video several times. This is what's happening in class. Is there something I could do that I'm missing? And so it opened up conversations for us to say, have you done this? For example, I said, one teacher said, we don't know how to meet his needs. And I said, well, are you following the IEP? He's getting all of the IEP accommodations or whatever. And I said, okay, it's not just what's in writing. You as an educator in your classroom with your content have to think just a little outside that box and say, when do I see the light bulb go on for this child? I need to do more of that. And so we created a video and that helped that big transition because it was my kid, that child is very easygoing and could get very lost quite easily and just no one even know that he was struggling or I just was picturing wandering in the halls and just not knowing what to do or being displaced, not being able to advocate for himself. So we created a video. That's just an idea.
No,
But it
that's
was
a
the
great
school had
idea.
to do it. The school had to do it. And I just added, I basically just shot myself for a few minutes on my phone, sent it, they added it in, and it was lovely. And
So
I think,
this is why this is so helpful, because now you're
Yes,
typing it, I'm thinking,
what I would have added to change, what we didn't do was an interview with him. We didn't do that. Let's talk to him for a few minutes. What are you looking forward to? What are your interests? What do you
Yeah.
like about school? So you could actually hear it from his voice rather than all of us adults yammering about what works best.
And
So, yeah.
also like his
Yeah.
brother and sister or relative, it's almost like it could be this mini person-centered video, right? And get those voices. And that's the other thing, Kelly, down the road that you might want to look at is if your son has other brothers and sisters. Dylan's had his brother and sister sometimes call in for
oh,
meetings.
that's funny.
But
Maybe once he gets older. he's a little young now, but yes. Yeah.
oh, yeah, but and we started this with Dylan in 5th grade at a person-centered planning meeting, and it was like, it was so neat to see the other kids that knew Dylan talk about him. And it also helps because it's intimidating for us to go to IEP meetings as parents and then think of what it's like for a kid if they have to present something. Or so by having friends at the IEP meetings, just like when we have friends, it's emotional support. So yeah, there's a variety of things. And I know Amy, maybe what I could do too is put that link, because a while ago, Amy was a guest on my show and she talked about a whole system that she has, and she described it a little bit here in the post. But do you want to say what that is, Amy, for if people aren't seeing the chat?
I could reiterate. I know Kelly's been loosely following and she's been to some of my things early on. But one of the things mine has evolved to be is that I have, so the slide deck is long, but half of it is about my kid. And like you said before, Kelly, I'll put strengths in and I'll put those amazing young adults and adults with Down syndrome. But I'm only saying that to them because it's always that catch-22, right? I'm not saying he should be included because he has these strengths. I'm not saying he's going to be the one that swims the English Channel or testifies in front of Congress, but it's that idea that someone was talking about opening the door and we don't have any right to shut the door on that kid. And that's the messaging that I was putting forth with that part of the slide deck. So I've kind of evolved in some of the ways he's right here, explained it a bit, and then putting in what works, what doesn't work instead of saying like weaknesses, I'm saying what's not going to work. Please don't do these things because it's not going to yield the results you or I want. And then the whole other part is still with those resources, because teachers, the thing that I say to them is that I know you don't have access to these resources. Nobody does. You have your curriculum, you have your staff developers that are hired. And if you're an individual that is interested in finding out things outside of your world, you will, but teachers don't have access to the federally funded TA centers and SWIFT and CAST, and they just don't. So I put it like, I know you don't have access to this. I can help you unpack this. We can look at, in our monthly team meetings, we can look at one piece of something together. If you bring something to my attention that you want to troubleshoot, one of the resources likely in the document. So it's not like just a one-time presentation. I also have videos of him in there now that he's a little older. He gets to talk about some of the slides on Zoom. I had him come over and talk about the slides. I had like his favorite things just so they could get a flavor for what he sounds like. And I'm always vulnerable with them. Like I always throw myself under the bus. This is going well, this and this is not yet. But it's hard to be vulnerable with it. But maybe it's better with a new team, because if you present that way, it'll loosen your wall a little bit, you know. What
Trish made me think of is, so I have our IEP meeting first, and I could ask the team about recording. We had little videos of what my son's strengths, like his dance performance, this or that, because it gives you a flavor of who he is personality wise. But I didn't. Then we're going to have the articulation meeting with the middle school and the high school team. I don't know who's invited. As soon as I get that invite list, right, I could send those. I didn't think about sending them in advance. Before we meet about my kid, here's a 3-minute video about my kid. They're not gonna, your stuff is intimidating to me, Amy, because it's,
Yeah.
If
send
you
it
didn't
to
read
them.
it, you sent
Yeah.
it, you sent parts to me very generously and I didn't take the time to read it, they're not gonna do it. So I'm trying to do like bite-sized things. And then you might find people who are like, want more. Those are the people you like
Yeah.
follow up with and you have that stuff at the ready, whereas I would have to gather it. But yes, now I'm thinking because of what Trisha said, I will ask at our IEP meeting, if you guys have things you want to record in school, great. I have some stuff I can add. I'd like to give the high school team this video and then I'll have it for when he gets teachers assigned come summer and all that. I'm not going to know the teachers until another thing I'm working on with my district. You got to plan for the IEP kids first. You got to get their schedules first instead of last. But so they're working on it. But yeah, so thank you for that. This is what's so helpful about brainstorming out loud with people.
Oh, I know. And that's one of, I had said, we're going to talk about growing communities. Another thing that I really want to bring out is how messaging that we're sending. And I've always said that we need to change our messaging depending on who we're talking to. So Trisha and I talked to the State Board of Education. We had one message we wanted to send them about the state level, right? But if you're talking to a principal, to look at what's important to that principal, how do we plan our message with that principal versus a teacher that is like cheering us on behind the scenes and we don't have to convince her of anything. So one part of our new group is going to be talking about changing conversations. And another part that I'm going to bring in there is something that I've been studying. It's NLP. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that, neuro-linguistic programming, but it's looking at how we can be persuasive with our language. And so that's, to me, I don't know, a year or so ago, I did a show about marketing inclusion and that we need to think of ourselves as marketers. And what do we give? Like, this person is not going to look at a research-based article, but they would love a Paula Kluth video to watch. Or this person is all about the data. And if you suggest a Paula Kluth video, they're like, no, that's not what I want. I want to see the hard research study. So changing our message depending on who we're talking with. And then there's some specific language patterns that we can use that, and it's really based on neuroscience of when this whole thing of using an object to be a trigger for something that can be good is another thing. It's like, I have a lot of ingrained things like we all do it in our brains, and they become these unconscious habits that we have. And we need to look at how can we change that within ourselves, but also the people that we're talking with. So yeah, that's another part of what we'll be doing in the new group. So what thoughts are bubbling up for you? Everybody else? Anyone else?
The thing that came up, someone was talking about the slide deck and videos about, and actually we were just talking about how like a lot of people like one form of communication over the other. And you've seen the spiral, the communication books that I make it so the staff, actually in the entire school, because like everybody needs to know about his liquid restriction, but not everybody's going to be directly involved, like working with him. So like making the snapshot, and I don't expect you to remember everything about him, so just ask for his communication book, and then you know everything about him. His IEP, that's pages, or like it's intimidating, is brought down to 2.5, I think. And then you actually have the safe foods too. So it's like everything you need to know in 3 pages. And then my contact too, in case like he got on the wrong bus.
And Heather, do you still do, because were they like file folders that you, because didn't you have a picture of Brody on the front and then the information inside? I'm trying to remember how you said it.
They were manila folders that pass out at all the meetings. So it's the file folder, because 1 year I did use different colors, had what I had on hand. And then that way, when you're at meetings and everybody's opening their binders, a lot of times the picture gets flipped to the other side. If everybody at the table has this picture, it's hard to cover it all up.
I know. See, isn't that amazing? Those little things that make a difference, but it really does. And I just love, and I know parents have, suggested that for a number of years, is if your child can't be there, bring a photograph and maybe put that in the middle of the table, or but something to like keep us focused on. This is the person we're talking about. It's not just filling out these boxes on this form, but this is the real person here. Yeah. So anything like that I think we can do to help, because I really feel like when I was a teacher, the more connections I had with the family, I just had the inner motivation. I knew them, I knew what was going on. And it was like, it made me like more aware. It made me more thinking of what I can do. And so if we can get teachers and parents to work together, and I'm looking at this group and it's like I said, like most of my people that know me are parents, but I'm hoping we get the word out to teachers too. But for us, and it might not be teachers in our district that are in the group, but just by having other teachers to bounce ideas off of and say, I'm really worried about high school. And from what I hear, it sounds really completely different. And so as a teacher, what suggestions do you have? What turns you off when parents come up to you and are asking for things, or what? And that's that one person. And the teacher at your high school might not be that way, but it helps us. And we want the teachers to get to know the parents and ask the parents, like, what's the best way when we wait to call you into the conference room, when every staff person is set up and their notebook is ready and their computer's on and they've got their purse on the floor and the water bottle is there. And when we wait and call you in from the waiting area to the meeting, like, how does that make you feel? To me, that's like it's like a power thing. It's invite us and we'll get all settled together. Not okay, now bring in the parent and you're trying to figure out what seat you're going to sit in and how to open up your notebook, and they're like ready to go with the actions and agenda and you don't feel ready. Does that bug anybody else? Or is that just me?
Yeah,
I
that
agree,
usually does one.
Charmaine. You're waiting out in the foyer or whatever, and watching you, and you're like, why are you watching? What's going on? Is because they're having the meeting before the meeting.
Right.
And you go in there and it goes dead silent and you're like, oh, did I just interrupt something? That's highly disrespectful. I just think, and at my school, after I'd been there so often, I just trailed back there. I didn't wait to be sent back there. So I'm like, I know what I'm here for. And
Yeah.
it wasn't like I never interrupted anyone, but I'm sure they would have said, hey, we already have a meeting in progress. But yeah, that to me is, don't treat me like a second class citizen. I'm part of this team. I was just having some thoughts about my middle school son, and we were talking about math. His greatest, all my kids struggle with math. And I was asking questions about how he's going to catch up. And they said, well, when he gets to high school, he's going to have a completely different program. And I'm looking around, what are you talking about? I said, so are you telling me now that he's in 6th grade that we're not planning for high school graduation? Because that's what I just heard you say, is that you're planning for high school graduation, you're not planning for independence, they'll create a plan with you. I said, no, we're talking about today. And our goal is for graduation and our goal is for independence. We're shooting for the highest level. And if it falls somewhere else, I'm completely okay with that. But if we shoot for the bottom rung, that's where we're going to head. And so I just was like, no, you don't just drag him through math and pass him on because that's what you do, because
Right.
High school is going to be different. He still needs those skills, maybe not at the same level as everyone else, but he still needs math skills. And to just frustrate him with pushing him into general education math without providing the appropriate support and it's not fair. And so I have to just keep reminding people, our goal is up here. This is our goal, independence. This is regardless of what you believe can happen, this is what we're shooting for. And I am completely prepared all along the way for anything else that comes. And his goals may change and his plan may change,
Right.
but so when we got at this new school, it was like, oh no, you haven't been hearing what I've been saying for 5 years, because our goal is up here. And I will work with you to get him there, but I'm not accepting that he just has to show up to class. It's
Go ahead.
unfortunate that in our district, I don't know about in this district that I live in, that kids in special education are not expected to go on to be productive members of society. And I heard that from other parents, and I thought, I think you're just wrong. I think you're mistaken. Now that I'm living it, I'm like, oh, now I understand that this philosophy is toxic.
And I was just saying that Anne had said in the comments, she said, here's my take. I'm hoping to go from A to Z, but you'll probably end at Q. And Iona says, where there's a will, there's a way. Yeah, and it's a challenge for sure. But I look back on collective advocacy, and like I had mentioned before, from like the civil rights movement, and they did have a mass of people that were working on that, or the parents that were working with the National Arc back in the 70s and 60s and trying to get our first federal law passed for our kids to go to school at all. And that collective advocacy those collective advocacy movements are what really moved the needle. And as much as I want individual kids to have the education they deserve, I just know that when we keep doing it one kid at a time, it's the impact is not there. It's not lasting. It's like the district goes, okay, I've heard Trisha enough. Let's just throw her a bone and keep her happy, and maybe she'll stop complaining. And it's the squeaky wheel gets the oil. But then look at all the families that get left behind. Look at all the kids that get left behind because they don't have, sometimes it's just based on culture. I've worked with parents and it's like, I grew up saying we don't question authority. So when we do individual advocacy, a child in a family where they don't think it's proper to question authority, they're not going to get what our kids get when we're advocating. So when we do that collective advocacy, we're not going to be leaving all these other kids behind. And I think the other part about the SNU community is it's not going to be just special ed issues, because that perpetuates our special ed silo that we live in too much. And it could be lots of issues. It could be bullying, it could be racism, it could be a variety of things that people want to change and will support you for that changes that you're working on. And so some of the basic components like growing the communities, changing the conversations, that can apply to whatever change you're working on. So yeah, there is like so much potential. So I'm just very optimistic that lots of good things are going to be happening. And it's because we're going to be working together, and that's what's going to make the change.
Yeah, working together is definitely more effective than one at a time. My best friend says teamwork makes the dream work.
Right.
And kind of you hit on a big pet peeve a couple minutes ago about the meetings. And like, I remember the first couple meetings I went to, I dismissed the whole bring food approach until there's one of the meetings they tried having me wait in the office, but I had brought like a feast, covered all the different diets just to make the point. And then they're like, oh yeah, come back like right now and set up all the food, please. And that kind of established the expectation that I'm not gonna just sit and wait.
And Amy, I saw, did you find your book that you were going to share, or the book that you're Inclusion Club is
Yeah,
doing.
it's this one. It's amazing. There's so much to say about it. I'm not even halfway through yet, but yeah, that is the one. It takes the disability lens and just blows it up. And you just think about all the inequities, all the marginalization. That education is, to me, and at this point, it's like literally for no one. No one's thriving in our current systems, like the way that we're doing teaching and learning. Because I think about how education, what its purpose was when it made in the US, what its purpose is now has evolved, but yet the teaching hasn't changed with that. So it just, that's why I feel like I want to dive in a little more with the UDL piece, the talking to curriculum specialists and superintendents and things, because it's not doing anyone well. And even we talk about the reading wars. We do a training through my job on introductory training on the science of reading, and they are even saying maybe half the kids are learning incidentally just because they're getting older not because of anything you're doing reading wise. They're just going to go along and they'll learn incidentally. Are they learning? Probably not. And then you have the other half or more that are just not doing well. And our data shows it, especially in literacy.
Right. Oh, I know.
This book is great. It has like different assignments. So like we pick and choose the assignments we do in the group, and it's nice. Yeah.
I know. And that's the thing. I've had a couple of parents ask me for more information about the Connecting for Change group, and have this vision. I see it, I feel it, I hear it. And then it's okay, so how do I describe this in words? But I want it to be a familiar group. Like just today, we don't all know each other, but look at already the connections that we're making. So I want it to be like that neighborhood hangout for coffee or a beer after work or whatever. We also want to be sharing new information. I don't want to be seen as Charmaine figures out the trainings and does a PowerPoint and shows up. It's no, let's like figure out even new ways of what a Facebook group can look like and how we can have different people share different parts. And there'll be resources that you can have and things like that. But yeah, the connection between the people and the brainstorming, Kelly talked about bouncing ideas off of each other. That's like what I love to do the most. And then that makes me think of this. And I even have this light because I like light bulbs. And so this is my other thing. My desk is filled with more objects for me to go, yeah, that's a good idea. Then I need a bigger desk. But
I have a question for you.
yes.
Something maybe we could think about in the group that I need help with for sure. And I started typing it, but it's easier for me to explain. I have the most trouble narrowing down a focus because there are so many angles to approach. I work full time. I'm doing that side business. I'm doing the partners in policy making. I'm a single mommy. So like I need to focus on something or I'm going to get nothing done. But then when I focus on one area, my brain sees all the connections to the other areas. And I also don't want people, if I'm talking to legislators through partners, or if I'm talking to clients through the company or stakeholders that I work with in my full-time job, I don't want them to think that I'm this narrow because of the focus. And I don't want them to think because I'm talking about one thing doesn't mean I'm not cognizant of the other things. And that's what's hard for me because I want to see all the angles and I want everyone to see all the angles, but I can't tackle all the angles. Right. Like we were talking the other day, I had 5 different ideas of where I could focus and it's just so many.
Right. Yeah. Kelly, Trisha, or Heather, do you have any thoughts or tips? Like
I struggle with that too. I think maybe before you you don't have to have one focus in general, but the purpose of whatever meeting you're having, you almost have to reset your brain. Like, here's my frame for this conversation. You can still like dip in, but just keep reminding yourself to go, because I struggle from the same thing, but an IEP meeting has a specific purpose. So usually I can focus on that, but that's what's so hard. And it's what's useful about a new year. It's artificial, but like this year, I'm going to focus more on this. It's always triage. Same with my kid, right? What do I really want for my kid this year? We can't work on everything. What seems to be the thing or 2 things that I really want the school to focus on this year, and then it might change. So I guess it's surf the wave of the things that are like most relevant right now, or that you have your hands around most because you only have limited time, and then let it evolve when you have a break and you're like, let me reframe. I don't know, just one thought.
excellent. Yes. Yeah, for sure.
thing that we're suggesting is kind of what Kelly's saying is, what does it mean? What does it mean around the
Tricia,
most? Really focus
Tricia,
on and
your sound is really garbled. You sound like you're in a Star Wars movie. I don't know what, yeah, huh. I wonder what changed, because it wasn't that way before. Do you have headphones that you could plug into your computer? I don't know, or just try unmuting and talking again.
everyone's on their devices. I think that's already.
So suggest creating connections with other like-minded people. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like when we do it by ourselves, that's when it gets really tiring. So if for this next year, you want to focus on having more people in the district understand universal design for learning, you want to gather other people that also want to do that, because yeah, when we do things individually, it's hard and we get really tired. Heather, did you have anything to say as far as when there's so many things that you see want to change? Like, how does your magic unicorn pen decide what to write about?
Yeah, it's kind of being able to customize your message to who you're talking to, but to avoid them thinking that you're so focused on one and go, oh, that's a tangent that we could go off on. If I'm talking to another person that is familiar with ADHD or I know has been impacted by it, I'll be like, oh, that's a squirrel, but I digress and bring us back and just like hint at that there's so much more that you can talk about without straying too far from like the rope that you want to get back to that's guiding you to the end point. And just as far as trying to minimize the decision fatigue that they're gonna experience when talking with you.
Yeah.
No,
Brody wants to say something.
so that person at the bottom,
Trisha.
That person.
Trisha, I know another Trisha, and I was like, oh my God, I thought that it was like my mind was blown when I saw her pop on. Yeah, but no, I want our background that you guys are seeing right now. We actually took that background in this room that me and my mom are sitting in right now.
Cool. So is that in your room, Brody? Do you have those stars?
No, like my room used to be a playroom, and
In this room, and his room is now the playroom. Like he actually sleeps in the playroom.
yeah,
That's cool.
as we were going for, I did not know there was another Trisha. And guess what? Her husband has a PS5.
Speaking of tangents and games,
That gives him a lot of clout, right? Anybody would
And my favorite show is Paw Patrol.
is what?
Good one. Paw Patrol.
Oh, Paw Patrol.
Yeah, that's what I had my party theme was.
That's right.
Sure.
That's right.
Wait, how did you guys know about my birthday party?
Your mom takes photos and then sometimes they mysteriously come on Facebook and I get to see what you guys are doing.
Wait, I wish I could speak to you in person, but with COVID being around and me being sick, I'm feeling a bit better now that you mention it. And I have some really cool jokes to tell you guys.
another time maybe.
No, just one.
Do you have a knock knock joke, Birdie? I always want to learn more knock knocks. Do you have any knock knocks?
Oh yeah, I have a great one.
Go ahead, do it.
How did the barber win the race?
How did the barber win the race? He had a cutting edge. I don't know.
No,
How?
he took a haircut. And why did the cookie go to the hospital?
Why did the cookie go to the hospital? His blood sugar was low? I don't know. What's the answer?
Because he felt crummy.
Yeah,
And what's a bunny's favorite kind of music?
a bunny's favorite kind of music. The bunny hop? What?
The hip hop.
Ah, I was close.
Yeah, it's not the bunny hop. It's a hip hop. And that's my sister that you're seeing, and she's she is now turning on. She's 12 right now, but I don't know, like in a month, maybe a couple of days she'll be a teenager.
Woo.
Oh,
Fun, fun.
And guess what my uncle called me?
Buzz Lightyear.
No,
What?
double digits, boys. I'm double digits. Yeah.
Yeah, 10 years old, right?
Yeah. And then-
Cool. Well, Brody, I want to say, I hope that you continue to feel better, because that's exciting. Just a little bit ago, you weren't feeling so perky, and now you're feeling better. So isn't that good? We like to hear that. And I was going to tell your mom and the other parents here, that's another thing that I really want to. So now it's like, how many focuses do I have for our group? The other focus I have is for more student voices, and how do we make sure that our kids are being heard? And I know adults with disabilities that we can have come on, but also you look at the kids that are in school now, and what are ways that we can make sure their voices are heard. So, yeah. But I want to thank everybody for being here today. So what I think I'll do is I'll put a post and ask people if you want to name your object and what it means to you. And then I'll look through those comments. And like I said, I'll pick maybe by tomorrow or something. So we have, somebody's going to win the easy button.
That was easy.
And the other tool that I use and that I love is just a journal book. And I'm not like a journal person, like I write down things every day. But what I use it for is like when I'm on shows like this or listening to webinars, and I call it my idea book. And I just write things down. And part of me is, I should have the first part of the book be about inclusion and the next part of the book be about this. But no, it's just like, I just have this stream of consciousness I keep adding to. And it's really fun to go back and reread it when it's just this jumbled collection of ideas. And the giveaway will receive a idea book. And then the grand prize, the grand giveaway is that somebody will win 6 months free for our Connecting for Change membership group. So I'm excited. January 12th is the day that we'll be opening it. Stay tuned. We'll be talking more about it. I hope that each of you will find benefit and want to be with us, because today is just a taste of the energy that we can create, the change that we can create, the support that we can give to each other. I'm so glad we're saying hello to 2023, and I'll have to put on my Walgreens glasses here as we wind up. And I don't know, Elton John might be a little jealous of my glasses, but he's got like real diamonds around his.
I gotta say, those really look like the Walgreens of the glasses. And Trisha was kind of sounding like a robot. Beep, boop, beep, boop.
Trisha, can you unmute and see if you have your other voice back?
I'm here now, Brody. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you sounded like a lot like a robot.
Yeah, when
Now
I
you're
was
good.
growing up, we called it the Peanuts cartoon, Charlie Brown. That's what we sound like, the Charlie Brown.
Oh,
Yeah. It was nice to meet you. I'm glad there's another Trisha out there.
oh,
thank you so much, Charmaine.
oh, wait.
Thank you, ladies. And yes, we'll be in touch. So I'm excited, and yeah, we'll just keep on keeping on, and we will see you on another Zoom call, I'm sure.
Bye, Brody.
Here, bye-bye.